must have seen the video from the South Carolina Twitter account. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. Shane Beamer, a little bit of a rap video going on for like 45
He's got some swag
seconds.
there, don't he?
I actually was entertained. I was entertained by this. Some people on Twitter say it's cringeworthy and all that kind of stuff, and I kind of say, you know what? From some of the things that we see coaches do at Arkansas on social media, I think it's perfectly okay if Shane Beamer does some kind of silly dancing.
2 words for you, Phil.
It looks like he and the rest of them are having fun. What?
I got 2 words for you, Phil. Brian Kelly. That is cringy. What Shane Beamer did was not bad.
That's the cringy stuff, yeah. Will Gunter is joining us right now. He's a radio host on 107.5 The Game in Columbia, South Carolina. Will, thoughts on Shane Beamer? Forget about his coaching ability. What about his dancing and rapping ability? Because that's what I want to talk about.
Yeah. You try to take a nap, and you wake up and you look at Twitter, and I couldn't scroll past the dancing. Like, everybody was tweeting about it, and great. Now Soldier Boy is stuck in my head. I've been walking the halls the last 20 minutes singing to myself, hop up out the bed. So I've known Shane a long time. I got to be good friends with him when he was an assistant under Steve Spurrier, and that's just who he is. He is the guy that South Carolina needed very badly from that perspective. I don't ever want to run down anybody. Will Muschamp was about as fun as cardboard, and sometimes wet cardboard. But South Carolina needed that infusion, and time will tell whether it was the right hire or not. But in terms of getting passion and excitement back into the fan base, especially in a state where Dabo Swinney, there was a video that came out. It was a breast cancer awareness thing that I don't know if y'all saw the video.
Hitting the gritty.
Hey, yeah, I'm 40. I'm just learning dances. My 10-year-old son's like, Dad, you see this? I'm like, oh boy. But Dabo does it, and it was successful. Certainly at a certain level. Now you've got Shane who has that kind of energy and passion, and it's been great for South Carolina football, even off a 7-6 season. So, hey, I'm all for it. And by the way, just to give credit where credit's due, Justin King is their creative editor who does all the stuff for the Gamecock football Twitter. That dude is a genius and is a massive 5-star recruit for South Carolina football in terms of what he puts together to put on social media.
Well, is he going to be able to make Spencer Rattler look good if Rattler plays like he did at Oklahoma last year?
Well, what is it? Spencer Rattler still won 17 straight games? Is that right? To be honest, if you look at what the South Carolina, I'm sure you guys have done your homework, had 3 starters at quarterback during the regular season, and then De'Carrion Joyner, who's here today, started the bowl game and did play more quarterback in that game, so 4 starters. And South Carolina's quarterback play last year was atrocious, to say the least. And so you got to consider it's an upgrade. But to answer your question, there is a lot of people concerned about offensive coordinator Marcus Satterfield. What can he do? There were a lot of people that were calling for Marcus Satterfield's head after Clemson shut out South Carolina in the bowl game, 30-0. And so with all that being said, there's excitement, and we just talked about the video and Spencer Rattler and Austin Stogner and Juice Wells and all these guys, but there is going to be a million questions that will be answered in week 2 in Fayetteville about offensive coordinator Marcus Satterfield and what kind of game plan he can put together.
Mm-hmm. And when you talk about South Carolina, just as a program, I mean, this has been a program that's been decent, has had some really good years, but can't ever seem to get over that hump. I mean, just in the last 20 years, you've had legendary Hall of Fame coaches like a Lou Holtz, like a Steve Spurrier, and what's been that thing that you've seen that's kind of kept South Carolina from being not just good, but from getting to that great spot? Because you see it can be done in the state of South Carolina, because that's what Clemson's been able to do.
Well, you guys are familiar with this. It's been 30 years since South Carolina and Arkansas joined the league. We just did a top 30 for 30 countdown on top players of the SEC era. South Carolina was not prepared to enter the SEC financially. Athletics-wise, just everything. They were not prepared. You saw that early on, and there was some ups and downs. Brad Scott came in from Florida State, and it kind of got a little bit better, and then obviously it bottomed out in 99 or 98 when they went 1-10, and then Lou Holtz comes in, and they were void of talent. There was nothing there, and then they had injuries, and they went 0-11. I remember, I think the second game of the SEC era, Arkansas came in. I can't remember. It was 10, but they beat us 45-7. I think, and then the next week, I think y'all just lost to Citadel too in 92, if I remember that correctly. But South Carolina wasn't ready, and it really took Lou Holtz coming in 8 years later to say, "Hey, we got we got to get some funds going here. Some boosters got to donate some money. We got to change the stadium. We got to build some facilities. And he got the ball rolling. And quite frankly, it was a situation where after he won that second Outback Bowl, he tried to retire. He tried to step away, and athletic director Mike McGee at that time said, no, we need you to hang around, and his heart wasn't in it. He kind of gave out on the football program, and you saw it. And then Steve Spurrier came in and obviously showed South Carolina even more, hey, you want to be a winner, what do you got to, here's what we have to do. And I'll give you an example. South Carolina lost, I think, number 1 Auburn, number 2 Auburn, number 1 Auburn on a Thursday night in, Spurrier's second year. Lost 24-17, and the fans clapped for the football team coming off the field. They were happy. Hey, we only lost by 7 to number 2 team on a Thursday night on national television. Spurrier went into the press conference and basically called the fans a bunch of losers and said you don't clap. So it's been learning, and in 30 years later, South Carolina still, they built the new facilities and they're doing these things. It's a learning process for South Carolina. They're getting there, but you look at who they play on a year-in, year-out basis, it makes it difficult.
Yeah, and with South Carolina this year, I've talked about it a lot on our show about it. When I'm getting ready to do my rankings, because obviously we've all got a tournament in here in the next couple of days, I don't know where really to put a lot of these teams, especially some of the opponents Arkansas is playing, like South Carolina, because there's a lot of question marks. There is a lot of unknowns. How well are you going to be able to build off of a 7-6 season? Now, when we talk about the matchup week 2 against with Arkansas and South Carolina, what are some areas that you think South Carolina matches up really well against Arkansas and may even have the edge?
I hate to say it, I don't know. And we didn't learn a lot about Marcus Satterfield's offense last year to really know we never really knew what it was even supposed to be. Is it run-based? I mean, they were more successful when they went run-based, but then they would have games where they'd come out chunking around the yard, and they looked awful. Sometimes the offensive line just flat didn't block. I don't mean like missed assignments, like they stared at a guy and then went left, and the defender went right, and the quarterback got crushed. How has the offseason been? Is the offense better? You do have all 5 offensive linemen are back. They've all started some games. They lost one transfer who started a couple to Florida State, but the offensive line is back. You would assume that's a positive. Marshawn Lloyd was a 5-star recruit out of DeMatha in the D.C. area. He's finally healthy. Okay, was he going to live up to the billing? You just mentioned Spencer Rattler. All right, is he going to be Spencer Rattler of old, or is he going to be brought down by Marcus Satterfield? The wide receivers, again, last year was only Josh Vann. Well, okay, are they better there? There's so many questions offensively, and then defensively, you lose J.J. Enagbare, the rush in. Can they still generate pressure on the quarterback? Will they be able to get to K.J. Jefferson? They stink at stopping the run. I mean, and Arkansas, I've heard, is a physical football team. That Sam Pittman has a belief in offensive linemen and running the football, and okay, well, can South Carolina stop that running game? So there's a lot of questions I have about this football team that will be answered in week 2.
Sam Pittman will continue to run the ball until it is shown otherwise that it gets stopped. That's just going to be a fact. So, I mean, you may end up seeing like 50, 55 runs in week 2. Who knows?
Well, we go back last year, South Carolina beats Auburn because Brian Harsin completely forgot he had some Bigsby guy in his backfield. 4th and 1, and Auburn was in control, and they tried, I don't know if y'all know what play it was, he tried a kind of a fake throw down the field. They took Bigsby out as well. So if Arkansas lines up and runs it, that is a huge concern for me that day because South Carolina does get one of their linebackers back, Sherrod Green, who I think enrolled in 92 when South Carolina entered the SEC. He got injured last year in the Georgia game and got a medical red shirt and continued his back, I think, seriously for a 6th year. But they get him back. Brad Johnson was a converted defensive end that wasn't heavy enough to be defensive. They moved him to linebacker last year, and he was good. So we'll see kind of how the linebackers also are able to fill into those run fits.
Okay, so, I mean, you already referenced who you play every year, and you're talking about really Georgia and Clemson. And Florida, of course, too, but, I mean, it's like you're already in the same league with Clemson because, you're battling for a lot of the same players in the state. You play them every year, but there's this overarching thought that sooner or later Clemson is going to be in the SEC. How does the University of South Carolina feel about that, or Gamecock fans?
Yeah, Gamecock fans, it's divided. There's a lot of people who know the financial advantage that they're going to have over Clemson and the ACC in the coming years. I know there was an article I've yet to read today on potential revenue distribution in the ACC to make it unequal, and maybe Clemson will get more. But the reason South Carolina fans don't want them is because they know financially that they're going to have a huge advantage. Now, on the flip side of that, a lot of people say, hey, you know what? Clemson's a byproduct of playing Duke and Wake Forest and Syracuse and Boston. These easy cupcake ACC schedules where you don't get tested week in, week out. So, yeah, bring them into the SEC. Let them see what we experience each and every week and knock them down a peg and make them find out, yeah, okay, you beat Alabama in the national championship game or in the playoff. Well, that's a one-game scenario. Now after you play Alabama, go play Florida, go play LSU, go play, Arkansas or, Kentucky. So it's kind of divided because a lot of people understand the financial advantage South Carolina could have coming up, but they understand Clemson has a cakewalk to their conference championship and then the playoff every year.
Yeah, it does seem like kind of one of those situations. The rising tide lifts all boats, there in South Carolina. And also, I feel like a lot of fans are welcoming of it because Clemson had kind of a down year last year, maybe smelling a little bit of blood in the water there in South Carolina when it comes to facing Clemson.
The season ender, a lot of people had faith. South Carolina had beaten Florida and beaten Auburn, and a lot of people thought, oh, hey, maybe this is the year we end the whatever I think it's 7 now. I hate to say that, but whatever the losing streak is, and a lot of people are like, hey, this is the year, and it wasn't close. It's 30-0, and South Carolina's offense was pathetic, and it was just a awful night at Williams-Brice, and now a lot of people are kind of looking at it saying, well, okay, they're recruiting again. I think they've got a tie. I think they were at number 4 last time I looked, depending on which website you want to look at. We'll see what their quarterback situation does. Again, there's so many things that you look at with Clemson, and they're talented. They're really good. But I think it's a situation where South Carolina fans, the hope is more in Shane Beamer and the team than Clemson falling down a little bit.
I'm going to ask a quick question. I might put you on the spot with this. This is a football conversation, but Arkansas baseball did get a transfer from South Carolina, Julian Bosnick. I know he was injured last year. What do you remember about Bosnick and what he might be able to provide for their pitching staff if he's healthy?
Did he? I'll be honest. I have not paid attention to the Major League Baseball draft. Has he not been drafted? Being here, and I feel like I'm just fully immersed in football. I saw the first round. Did he not get drafted at all? Do you know?
No, he did not. He apparently he's going to make it to the Arkansas campus, so I think he'll be a Razorback next season.
I'll be honest. He had told people he kind of pulled himself out last year. Early in the season, he had some issues, elbow issues, shoulder issues, and basically just kind of went on the shelf. But the general feeling was that he could have pitched, but he wanted to save himself, and he was going to be drafted very highly in the Major League Baseball draft. And then I know he had slid. He's a power pitcher. He's a guy they needed last year. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know Arkansas's pitching staff and what y'all have coming back and what's going on. He'll fit in somewhere if he's healthy. I don't know the severity of the injury that he sustained and how bad his elbow was. Again, I've had people down there say, well, he could have pitched. I've had people say, yeah, he needed to take a year off. But I do know that he intended to go to the Major League Baseball draft, and it caught people at South Carolina in that baseball facility off guard when he transferred to Arkansas because I think they thought if he was healthy and he was going to play college again, he was going to do it at South Carolina.
Interesting. All right, last thing here. I mean, we're talking football. We just talked a little baseball. Carolina's got a great baseball history with the back-to-back national championships. Dominant women's basketball program, obviously, with Dawn Staley. And those are the two sports that I call for Arkansas, and I love going there. There's passion for both of those sports. There's huge passion for South Carolina football. Pick a sport. What is South Carolina as far as what school are they?
They're a baseball school. I mean, just women's basketball is certainly what Dawn Staley has done, and but it's going to be fourth no matter. I mean, actually, it's probably ahead of men's basketball because they certainly are a men's basketball school. That's that much I can be assured. But honestly, South Carolina has extremely high expectations in baseball. I mean, extremely high expectations, and we've dealt with. To give you an example, this was their first losing season in 26 years. They've had 2 losing seasons in the last 52 years. Wow. They were actually 26 years apart. If you want, it's like one of the craziest statistics. So everybody's kind of walking around going, okay, good, we don't have another losing season for another 26 years. But the fans are smart. The ballpark was built, and when it was built, it was Founders Park. It was one of the best facilities in the country, and now some schools have gone in and redone theirs, and it's been built up. But fans are passionate, and they have an expectation for South Carolina baseball. Football, if they go 9-3, if you have 4 or 5 9-3 seasons in a row, you get streets named after you. There'll be babies named Shane all over the state, boys and girls. There will be statues. People will love you. Baseball, man, you don't make it to Omaha in 5 years and you don't win one championship, there's people going, I don't know if this guy's the guy for the job. Baseball is taken very seriously at South Carolina. Football's there, but again, the expectation is much lower.
Partners at BetOnline continue to be the #1 source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including this year's Wimbledon Finals, Major League Baseball, the latest fighting news, and even next season's early NFL futures. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code BLEAV. That's BLEAV to get the bonus and get into the action. Bet online, where the game starts.